Right now, somewhere in the world, a woman is showing a man exactly how she feels about him. Not with words, not with a text message, but with 4 specific parts of her body that she cannot stop herself from revealing when attraction takes over. And here's the terrifying part. 93% of men have absolutely no idea what they're looking at. They miss it every single time. And by the time they figure it out, she's already gone, but not you. Not after this video. So here's something that's going to change the way you see every interaction you have with a woman from this point forward. A study published in the journal Evolution and Human Behavior found that women communicate romantic interest primarily through non-verbal signals. And they do it an average of 13 times before most men even begin to notice. 13 times. She's practically screaming at you in a language your brain hasn't been trained to read yet. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. How many times have you walked away from a conversation thinking, I'm not sure if she was into me for my only to replay it later and wonder if you missed something? Or worse, have you ever realized days later that she actually was interested, but the moment had already passed? If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not lacking anything. You were just never taught how to see what was already right in front of you. And I'm going to be very real with you because I'm a woman and I've done every single thing I'm about to describe in this video. Most of us have. The difference is we don't always know we're doing it either. That's what makes this so powerful. These aren't calculated moves. These aren't rehearsed tricks. These are raw, involuntary biological responses that happen when a woman's body decides it wants someone before her brain even gets a vote. Now, I'm going to walk you through 4 body parts that women instinctively expose, highlight, or draw your attention to when attraction is present. And I've saved the most shocking one for last. The one that once you understand it will completely change how you read every interaction from this point forward. But before we go into that, there's something critical you need to understand. The human body is terrible at keeping secrets. You can try to say the right thing, act casual, play it cool, but your body tells the truth every single time. Research in communication psychology shows that more than half of emotional communication comes from body language alone. That means what she's telling you physically matters more than what she's saying out loud. She could be talking about something completely neutral, her job, her weekend, something random, and still be communicating attraction the entire time. 2 conversations are happening at once. One you can hear, one you have to learn to see, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with the first signal. And honestly, this one alone can change everything for you. The neck. Not just the fact that you can see it, but how she uses it. When a woman tilts her head slightly during conversation or brushes her hair to one side or touches her neck without even thinking about it, something very specific is happening beneath the surface. The neck is one of the most vulnerable areas on the human body. It protects vital structures, arteries, veins, airway. From a deeply instinctive evolutionary perspective, exposing the neck is not something the body does casually. It does it when it feels safe, and more than that, when it feels drawn towards someone. So when she tilts her head and leaves her neck open toward you, what her body is actually saying is, I trust this moment. I feel safe here. I'm open. And I want you to notice something subtle the next time you're talking to a woman. It's rarely just one movement, it's a pattern. She might tilt her head, then touch her necklace, then brush her hair back again a few minutes later. That repetition is everything. 1 time could be random, 2 times may be a coincidence, but when it keeps happening, your brain should start paying attention. That's not noise. That's a signal. And here's something even deeper. When she touches her neck, she's not just signaling emotionally. Her body is activating physically. That area is sensitive, warm, and connected to how scent is naturally released. Without realizing it, she's making herself more noticeable to you on multiple levels. I'll give you a personal moment because I think this will make it real. There was a time I was sitting across from someone I found incredibly attractive, and I remember feeling completely normal, calm, composed, just having a conversation. But later, when I replayed it in my head, I realized something. My hand had been on my neck almost the entire time, playing with my necklace, brushing my hair back, touching the same spot again and again. I didn't decide to do that. My body did. And that's the part most people don't understand. Attraction doesn't always start in the mind. Sometimes it starts in the body, and the body speaks first. Now, before I move to the second signal, I want you to do something small for me. Just mentally bookmark this moment, because from this point forward, the next time you're in a conversation and you notice this happening, I want you to pause, not externally, but internally, and recognize it. Awareness is the first shift. And if this is already opening your eyes even a little bit, take a second to like the video. Not for me, but because it tells the platform to show this to more people who are still completely missing these signals every day. Now, the second signal is even more subtle and almost nobody talks about it. The wrists, specifically the inner wrists. I know that sounds oddly specific, but stay with me, because once you understand this, you'll start noticing it everywhere. When a woman is attracted to someone, she begins to unconsciously expose the soft underside of her wrists. She might gesture with her palm slightly upward. She might rest her chin on her hand in a way that leaves her wrist open toward you. She might place her hands on the table in a relaxed open position instead of closing them off. And just like the neck, this is about vulnerability. Think about what your body does when you feel uncomfortable. You close off, arms cross, hands tighten, wrists turn inward, everything protects itself. But when there's attraction, the opposite happens. The body opens, and the wrists are one of the clearest indicators of that openness. There's also something fascinating happening beneath the surface here. The inner wrist is a pulse point, warm, sensitive, and naturally associated with scent. That's why perfumes are often applied there. So when a woman subtly turns her wrist toward you, she's not just being expressive. Her body is again making her presence more noticeable without her even realizing it. Let me give you a real-life example that perfectly captures this. A friend of mine once told me about a date she went on. She said the conversation was fine, nothing extraordinary, but she found the guy very attractive. She didn't think she was doing anything obvious, but later when she looked at a photo they took together at the table, something stood out immediately. Both of her hands were resting in front of her, completely open, wrists facing upward, relaxed, almost inviting. She laughed when she saw it because her body had made a decision long before her mind caught up. And this is where things start to get really interesting, because when you begin to see both of these signals together, the neck and the wrists, you're no longer looking at isolated behavior. You're starting to see a pattern of openness, comfort, and attraction forming right in front of you. And we're only getting started, because the third signal is the one most men think they understand, but almost always get completely wrong. And once you see it the right way, it changes everything about how you interpret attraction in real time. Now, the third signal is the one almost every man thinks he understands, but most interpret completely wrong: her legs. And before your mind jumps to the obvious, slow down for a second, because this has nothing to do with what she's wearing or how much skin is showing. That's surface level thinking. What actually matters is direction, positioning, and movement. That's where the truth lives. Let me ask you something simple but powerful. The next time you're standing near someone in a group, where do your feet naturally point? You don't think about it, right? They just aim somewhere. That's exactly the point. The lower body is one of the least consciously controlled parts of human behavior. While people manage their facial expressions and carefully choose their words, their legs and feet quietly reveal what they really feel. So here's what happens when attraction is present. Her legs will orient toward you. Even if she's talking to someone else, if her feet are pointed in your direction, her subconscious has already chosen you. That's not a coincidence. That's alignment. And once you start noticing this, it becomes almost impossible to ignore. You'll be in a room full of people and suddenly you'll see it. Someone angled one way, but their feet telling a different story. Now, there's another layer to this that's even more revealing: the way she crosses her legs. If she's sitting and crosses her legs in a way that the top leg points toward you, that's an inviting signal. It's subtle, but psychologically, she's angling her body in your direction. She's opening the line between you and her. But if that top leg points away from you, that creates distance. It's a soft barrier, not rejection necessarily, but not openness either. And here's where most men misread the situation. They focus on the obvious, how she looks, what she's wearing, but they miss the direction of her body entirely. They're listening to the loudest signals instead of the most honest ones. Now, let's go deeper because this is where it gets even more fascinating. There's something I call the restless energy effect. When a woman is attracted to you, her body doesn't just become open, it becomes activated. There's a subtle shift in energy, a kind of internal buzz that she may not even recognize. And that energy often shows up in her legs. She might bounce her foot slightly. And here's the mistake. People interpret that as boredom or impatience. But in many cases, it's the opposite. It's stimulation. Her nervous system is engaged. Her body is responding to your presence. There's adrenaline, there's dopamine, there's anticipation, and it has to go somewhere. So it shows up physically. I want you to really absorb that because it flips a common assumption on its head. Not all movement means disinterest. Sometimes movement means she feels something she hasn't fully processed yet. And then there's one behavior that once you see, it becomes almost impossible to misinterpret. The slow cross and uncross. Now, this isn't dramatic. It's subtle, natural, but it's incredibly powerful. Her body is saying, notice me. And it often happens without intention. She's not sitting there thinking, I'm going to do this. It's happening automatically because attraction at its core is not a strategy. It's a response. And I want to pause here because this is where things shift. You're no longer just observing behavior. You're understanding it. And that's a completely different level of awareness. So how many times have these signals been happening, but you didn't recognize them? If this is clicking, drop a comment below. I read those and it gives me insight into what you're seeing out there in the real world. Now, here's where everything comes together because the fourth signal is the most powerful of all. Her torso, the center of her body, the chest, the stomach, the area that holds everything vital. This is about orientation and openness. When a woman feels comfortable, safe, and attracted to you, she will face you fully, not halfway. Fully. The front of the human body is the most vulnerable area we have. It protects the heart, the lungs, the organs that keep us alive. That's why when we feel unsafe, we turn away, we create angles, we protect that space. So when someone willingly opens that area toward you, that's trust. She stays oriented toward you even when she doesn't need to. Even when the conversation shifts, her body keeps coming back to you. I remember a moment that made this clear. I was at a social gathering standing in a group of people casually talking. Nothing intense, nothing intentional. But later, someone showed me a photo from that moment and it caught me off guard. Everyone else was at slight angles except me. My entire body, my torso was fully facing him, locked in. Even though I was talking to someone else, your body reveals your focus before your mind admits it. And once you understand that, you see interactions differently because now you're not just listening to what's being said, you're watching where her attention lives. And attention is everything. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. When attraction is strong, she doesn't just face you, she leans in. The space between you decreases. Not dramatically, but consistently. We naturally move closer to what we like. But here's the real shift. The thing that separates those who see it, these signals don't happen alone. They cluster. She's not just exposing her neck, she's also opening her wrists. Her legs are angled toward you. Her torso is facing you fully. And when you see multiple of these happening at once, that's not subtle anymore. That's clear. That's consistent. That's attraction. And if you've made it this far, I want to say something important. You're already ahead of most people because you're starting to see the pattern. So now you see it. Not just one signal, but the pattern. The neck opens, the wrists soften, the legs orient, the torso faces you. And suddenly, What used to feel confusing starts to feel clear, not obvious in a loud, exaggerated way, but clear in a quiet, undeniable way. And this is where most men make a critical mistake. They stop here. They recognize the attraction. They feel the shift, and then they hesitate. They start thinking instead of responding. Maybe I'm overreading this. What if I'm wrong? What if I ruin the moment? And in that hesitation, the moment passes. So let's talk about what actually matters now. Not just seeing the signals, but responding to them in a way that feels natural, confident, and aligned with what's happening between you. Because attraction is not just about recognition, it's about timing. And timing is something you feel, not something you calculate. Let me bring you into a real scenario for a second. Imagine you're sitting across from her. The conversation is flowing. Not perfectly, not like a movie, but easy. There's space, there's eye contact. You notice she's touched her neck a few times. Her wrists are relaxed, open. Her body is angled toward you, even when she shifts in her seat. There's a moment where the conversation pauses, not awkwardly, just a natural pause. And this is where everything happens. Most people rush to fill that silence. They grab for another topic. They break the tension because they don't trust it. But that pause is not empty. That's charged. That's where connection lives. So instead of rushing, you stay there for a second. You hold eye contact just a little longer than usual. Not staring, not forcing, just present. And watch what happens. If she maintains that eye contact, if she doesn't pull away, if her body stays open instead of closing off, that's your answer. And I want to make something very clear here because this matters. None of this is about pressure. None of this is about forcing a moment or trying to take something. This is about awareness and response. You're not creating attraction out of nothing. You're recognizing what's already there and meeting it. That's a completely different energy. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood parts of attraction, escalation. That word alone makes people nervous because they associate it with doing something bold, risky, or uncomfortable. But real escalation doesn't feel like a jump. It feels like a natural next step. If she's leaning in, you lean in slightly too. If she's maintaining eye contact, you hold it just a moment longer. If the space between you is closing, you allow it to close. You're not pushing. You're matching. And this is where a lot of men get it wrong. They try to skip steps. They go from 0 to 100 because they think confidence means speed. It doesn't. Confidence means presence. Confidence means you're paying attention to what's actually happening instead of what you think should happen. Let me give you a simple exercise you can start using immediately. The next time you're in a conversation with someone you're attracted to, don't focus on impressing her. Don't focus on saying the perfect thing. Instead, shift your attention to observing. Notice her body language without overanalyzing it. Just observe. Then mirror one small thing. If she leans slightly forward, you lean slightly forward. If she slows down her speech, you slow down yours. If she relaxes her posture, you relax yours. This is called behavioral mirroring, and it creates a subconscious sense of connection and safety. But here's the key. It has to be subtle. You're not copying her. You're syncing with her. And when that sync happens, something changes in the dynamic. It feels easier. Now, let's address something that doesn't get talked about enough. What if you're wrong? What if you think you're seeing signals, but you're not sure? Good. That uncertainty is healthy because the goal is not to assume. The goal is to test gently and observe the response. You make a small move. Maybe it's holding eye contact longer. Maybe it's leaning in slightly. Maybe it's letting a moment of silence stretch just a bit. And then you watch. Does she meet you there or does she pull back? Because her response will always give you more information than your assumptions ever will. And here's something I want you to remember moving forward. Attraction is a two-way experience. It's not something you chase, it's something you step into. If she's showing you openness, you respond with openness. If she's creating distance, you respect that distance. That's what emotional intelligence looks like in real time. Now, let me ask you something deeper. What would change in your life if you stopped second-guessing these moments? If instead of replaying conversations later wondering what you missed, you started recognizing what was happening while it was happening. That's the shift we're creating here. Not just knowledge, but awareness in real time. And if you've made it this far, I want you to pause for a second and acknowledge something. You're already operating at a level most people never reach. So, if this is giving you clarity, subscribe to the channel. Not as a random click, but because this is exactly the kind of awareness that compounds over time. The more you understand human behavior, the more natural your interactions become. Now let's bring this full circle. You've learned the 4 signals. You understand the patterns. You know how to observe without overthinking. You know how to respond without forcing. But there's one final piece, timing. Because even when attraction is there, even when everything feels right, there's still a moment, a very specific moment where everything either moves forward or fades away. And here's the truth that most people won't tell you. That moment doesn't last forever. It's small, it's subtle. And if you miss it, it doesn't always come back. That's why so many connections feel like almost something real, but not quite. And it's not because the attraction wasn't there. It's because the timing wasn't met. So here's what I want you to start doing from this point forward. When you feel that moment, don't rush it, but don't ignore it either. Stay present in it. Let it build for a second. And then take a small step forward. Not a leap, but a step, because attraction grows in steps, not jumps. And the more you trust yourself in those small moments, the more natural everything becomes. Now, if this video opened your eyes even a little bit, share it. Share it with someone who needs to see this, because there are so many people out there missing signals every single day. Not because they don't care, but because no one ever showed them what to look for. And the more you understand this, the more you start seeing people differently. Not as confusing, not as unpredictable, but as human, responsive, expressive, and deeply honest if you know how to read the language. And I'll leave you with this. The next time you're in a conversation and you notice her neck open, her wrists soften, her legs orient, and her body face you fully, you'll know something she might not even fully realize yet. She's already leaning toward you. The only question left is, will you meet her?